My tryst with Bharat started at a very young age. When Bharati, my mom's maiden name, and Ramesh brought me to India from Thailand to be able to be blessed with an upbringing that is truly Indian, something that they believed would shape me and differentiate me from many others in the world, a conviction that they had, and one that they had probably because of the life that they had spent in India, both my mom and dad, before they moved to Thailand. And I think many things that happen in your life happen because they're not in your control. And you just become a part and parcel of an evolution and change that makes you and shapes you differently as you continue to grow. My rote learning education in India, my ability to memorize things, as we all sometimes laugh about today, probably helped me later in my life to be able to be more analytical, to be able to deploy skills that required more inputs of memory that many of others didn't have. It actually also defines why a lot of people from India and China succeed in the United States and many other parts of the world. And we see that at scale happening today. And I think there were these few aspects of one's life that continue to shape you, nurture you, make you the person that you are going to become. There are many instances of Bharati and me that brought in and instilled values, instilled episodes, instilled different anecdotes and many, many other feelings that even words can't describe. I still remember coming from a privileged family, and again, as I said, you can't define where you start, but you definitely can decide where you land. I was subject to many, many things in India that my cousins in Thailand, when they were growing up, weren't. For my 18th birthday, I got a Fiat car, whereas my cousins got some fancy cars there and then. And we used to go and spend our summer holidays there, and we used to, me and my brother, both of who got raised here, used to ask questions. We used to ask why they get this and we get something else. And my mother, of course, initially said stories like, oh, you were born with a golden spoon, your grandfather bought a Mercedes to drive you home. So this is nothing. They're getting it now. You had it then. And those stories that she said, we knew were those that, helped you shape and become what you do over the years. I still remember my dad saying, oh, your grandfather used to insist that everyone washes their hands before they touch you. And he said, now that we have to wash our hands after touching you, it's a different story. But the point was that there are stories and upbringings and things that happen in your life that you do not control or shape until you get to a particular point in your life. And there is that constant voice that either comes to you as Bharati, it comes from within, that continues to get stronger as you grow in age and time. And for me, that has really been the aspect of Bharat. So while I did do exceedingly well and got into the engineering college in Pune and got it through a meritocratic mechanism because I ranked 8th in Maharashtra and there was all accolades and things like that and the big temptation to go overseas, I studied here. I studied in India. And I think those 4 years of my undergraduation were probably the most impressionable years where I built sensibilities, sensitivities, what you might say, with so many different aspects. Taking the story of the car, even though I got a car which, I was not very happy with, I used to park it half a kilometer outside of college and walk in because you had other colleagues or your other, professors and others coming in different vehicles. And I realized at that point in time that what looked attractive, what looked tempting, was really actually an embarrassment for me. Even that extent. Of course, the impact of that one feels and realizes much, much later in life. But I think it's those circumstances, those situations, different episodes from one's life that can continue to take you through and shape the person you become. I still remember after that, of course, with that disparity in our family, my dad separated from his brothers, and I still remember the same Bharati telling him, because he had to give up a lot during the process of the separation, where a large part of his inheritance went to the brothers, and she said, what if you were not Kishan Chand Navani's son? Kishan Chand Navani, by the way, was my grandfather, whose entrepreneurial journey inspired me and I think many others. At the age of 18, from Hyderabad, Sindh, he got into a boat and a ship and went away to Thailand, survived a world war, looked at opportunity very differently. Roti, kapra, makan, food, clothing, and shelter, and said, what human need can I fulfill? Food everybody sold in Thailand. Shelter required capital, so he picked textiles, went to Europe, used his exploratory skills, brought in textiles into Thailand, and then invited the Aditya Birla Group to come to Thailand and set up large manufacturing businesses. So here was an entrepreneur who said, I will cater to the human needs. And how did that translate to so many other aspects of what one continued to do later in life? And for me, it was very interesting because when I got an opportunity to come back to India, of course, after my undergrad, I went to the US and I worked with NASA briefly, and I looked at many, many other aspects of advanced technology, actually came back to India to try and set up something from the commercialization of ISRO. And therefore, when you see the Chandrayaan launch now, you understand the power of where technology has gone. What inspired me was the fact that man went to the moon in 1969, and that's where I studied at Purdue. But what really sustained that momentum in technology was not the fact that I could continue to do things in space, but I always knew that being able to do something first in the world would make a difference. And I think these are the different pieces that kept tinkering with me at different points in life. So when I decided to come back to India and set up my business here and say, if I am looking at the next generation for our group, how would I shape it differently? It was very clear that what had got us here wouldn't take us there. And it had to be embedded in something that was very, very strongly considered potent or considered very valuable to India, because I wanted to raise my two girls here as well. And unlike my dad, who had to spend a lot of time traveling between India and Thailand at that point in time because of the opportunity elsewhere, I wanted to be based here. And that's when I looked at what is the true power of India. And I don't think there could be a better word than saying that there could never be a better time to be young and to be an Indian. And I think that was the one data point that 1 in 11 people in the world today is an Indian under the age of 25. 1 in 11 people is not only an Indian, but is an Indian under the age of 25. And how will that potential unlock over the next 25 years is something that should excite each one who is based here in India, who is looking at India, who is looking at integrating with India, who is looking at partnering with India. I think India's position as a superpower will not come the way the other superpowers have emerged. I think India's position will come as a super partner to the world. And we are seeing reflection of that. We are seeing aspects of that continuing to play out in many, many different ways. The theme today, as we was talking earlier, was dent the universe, right? To me, that's a little negative because denting is taking away. I think it's about strengthening the universe. What can India do to add more value to what is there today? How do we really integrate values with outcomes of human achievement that have never happened before? Fully agree. You cannot create something you can't imagine. It's the human imagination that has driven progress every time. And every time each one of you look at your own mind and your mind gets shaped with a new idea, it can never return to its original dimension. That's the nature of the mind. And that's the way the human progress will continue. Technology will keep taking us further and further But as we do that, we need to be able to see and integrate and understand few key aspects that bind us all together. The positioning that we heard around the G20 of the one family, one earth, one future, how do we really bring many of those aspects into play today is going to be a very critical determination of how we see progress happening eventually for the human race. I think it's a responsibility and an opportunity. We keep talking about disruption. Yes, innovation is about being able to do things differently. Disruption is about being able to do it so differently that many things that exist today do not exist tomorrow. But while we do that, we have to ensure that the progress that is happening is in a positive direction. We used to always talk of innovation within a box, when I looked initially at our manufacturing industry. And then we say, okay, we can tinker with little few things, add a little new machine part, make some process changes. But we can't shift too far from what we are doing. Then it came innovation out of the box, right? That means you can really go out and bring new ways of doing things, do new things as well. And then it comes to innovation without a box. And that's denting the universe. That is disruption. That is, really thinking without any barriers. And who can do that? It's the young people. It's the youth who have no baggage, the power to be able to bring about your creativity and have an opportunity to be able to put it to its best use. That is what will drive you. And each one of you will drive the future of not only what you become, but everyone else becomes in the process. Because so no matter what we might say, every action, every choice of yours, while it will change you and shape you, it is also impacting others. I mean, as we look at connectivity across people, we look at connectivity amongst living beings, we today even talk of, the entire universe being composed of 5 components, air, fire, water, earth, space. That's what it all is, right? And when we talk about the sensitivities today in terms of, what is happening with climate change and how are we all playing our own role in that, I think it's exceedingly important for us to be able to understand and appreciate that not only do we have to play a role that will shape us in a particular way, but the way our actions affect others is another very, very important piece for us to be able to watch out for. I don't think that has ever been so important as it is in today's day and time. We talk of new age technologies, and that's what we've been building as a business. When we looked at Gen Zs, we said, what are those aspects for a digital always generation that is going to drive the future of innovation, that's going to drive their lives? How do we play a meaningful role in the daily digital life of that entire generation? How do we make it in a manner that we not only impact and shape their day, but we shape the outcomes of their day? So while we looked at passions of Gen Zs, esports, gaming, entertainment, music, and we've been able to build leadership positions in India with a lot of those aspects of our businesses. It also then came to what are their concerns, wellness and livelihood, so health and income. But then what? Where does purpose come in? How do you use digital technologies to help people, live their purpose? How do you enable that to be able to be in a zone, in a manner that collectively you can create greater impact? And each technology that we talk of, look at generative AI. What is that doing? It is sharpening you. It is making things better. You can get it to automate certain processes. You can get it to assist in you in certain ways. You can enable it to take you over completely. And the generative part of that till today was only predicting, but now can actually complete the task as well. It is going to shape and change and shake the world in a way that many of us can't even imagine today. Because the moment you add quantum computing to it, the dynamic changes even faster, because quantum is actually taking processing power to being 1 billion and more than 1 billion times faster. So you can only imagine how calculations can happen, how intelligence can be not only deployed, but it can actually create outcomes that can be far stronger than what any human being can even imagine at some point in time. And when those changes happen, how have we looked at ethics? How have we integrated? What role have we played to make and shape that future? Is a question that I think each one of you will be asking. And at that point, the question that you must ask yourself is that what have I done to make that happen? What have I done to be able to shape that future for not only myself, but for everyone else? There are so many such technologies. You look at the augmented reality, the multiverses, the ability to really move between one world to another. Many times we used to think of things like science fiction. I still remember early in the days, you clap your hand and the lights used to go on and you say, that's magic. Right? Today, we all know it's a sensor. You clap your hands, you put your lights, you operate from your app, lights go on, lights go off. But look at what else you have seen in sci-fi. All of your sci-fi today is becoming reality. And that entire sci-fi that will become a reality tomorrow is for you to be able to face, for you to be able to shape, for you to be able to create further from. And I think that is the excitement. That is the opportunity. That is also the challenge. How do you, therefore, create a world, as I said, that can benefit everyone as we continue to move in those directions? And there will be technologies that will accelerate faster. There will be technologies that won't accelerate. It is where does the collective effort go to make it happen? I mean, the Egyptians made the pyramids, right? There were the aqueducts with the Romans, and all of that got lost somewhere over the years because that did not get accelerated, and new technologies came in. Even when I take and talk of my experience with NASA, I always thought that if a man has gone to the moon in 1969, by now we would have been, space exploration would have been at a completely different level. But we are still sending probes there. We are still trying to find out what is happening on the moon, because some of these challenges are not easy. So technology does not always only go in the front. It also kind of recedes basis where the effort is being put. And that effort is something that I think we need to be able to take collective responsibility for. How do we build that? How do we bridge that? Today, in an interconnected world of Gen Zs, where we always say that you don't have social skills, but you have great social media skills, right? There's an ability to be able to throw your opinion. There is an ability to be able to create an impression, not with 1 or 2 or 5 people, but with hundreds and thousands and millions in many cases, to be able to engage and express your thoughts to larger audiences, and to be able to imbibe and take many people along in the way you shape so many aspects of the future. So when I look at the Gen Zs today, the whole community that we work with, and I look at the next 25 years, I truly believe that not only the consumption, also the employable workforce is going to come from this generation. The consumption is going to be different. We are talking of organic, we are talking of sustainable. You don't buy everything, anything you need with money you don't have to impress people you don't like. That used to be talked about, the capitalistic way of consumption. But you will buy things that you need. You will buy it in an affordable manner. You will buy it if it's sustainable. You will buy it because you believe that it is something that needs to be bought for some other reason. So I think the entire area of consumption of the future will be defined by this generation. And the way this generation will drive consumption is going to define a large part of the future of the planet. And when I talk of an employable workforce, what more can I say? That the leaders of tomorrow will come from here. And the leaders of this generation cannot be people who have a clear thinking head, clean working hands, and say that's enough. That's more than what we need, right? That's the way leadership is defined today. But without a warm, caring heart, I don't think we'll be able to create an impact. We will not be able to take that Indianness that is there, that Bharat that is there in each one, who has lived here, who has stayed here, who has experienced that, who has seen so much inequality, seen so much differentiation, that there is no way that you cannot be sensitive to that aspect of creation. You cannot be not sensitive to so many aspects that we are only privileged or largely privileged to be able to experience in this Bharat. So I truly believe that the next generation leaders that will come from India, that will be part of this Gen Z, will be the ones who will not only, as I say, shape themselves in a manner, but will lead in a manner that will shape the future of the world. And every time I think of Bharat and I think of Bharati, different voices keep ringing in my head. I mean, I lost my mom 25 years ago, but that aspect of the feminine power of the completeness that I got, through the Bharat and Bharati combination has actually enabled me to make so many decisions that are very, very hard to be able to explain. And as I am, mentioning that, I can hear her whisper. I can hear her tell me that really tell the audience today that never in the history of mankind, never in the history of mankind has a country, a democratically elected country of over 1 billion people, transformed itself from a developing country to a developed country. A Viksit Bharat, as we say. That Viksit Bharat is going to be the future of the next 25 years. It is the future of this generation. And only thing I can ask is that have you started to record your tryst with Bharat? Thank you.